All right, and here we are. Another episode of the AI series from Get Vibey. Welcome, Nick. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Hello, hello.
Awesome. I heard you're still in the Netherlands, still enjoying the European life for a little bit.
Yes, I am, and I'll be staying here for a while actually. So I'll be here for the rest of the year, and so I'll be seeing what AI communities and what AI has to offer here in Europe as well.
That's exciting. Isn't Lovable is from Europe, right? Are they from the
Yeah,
Netherlands or are they from somewhere else?
no, they are from, if I'm not mistaken, they're actually from Scandinavia. I think they're from Sweden. Let me see.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah, yep, Sweden, Stockholm.
Ah, okay. That's
Yeah,
interesting. Okay, cool.
and then.
How's the experience so far though in the tech scene there?
It's good. It's been fun. I've been going to a few events, and there's a lot of people in the AI space that are interested and are trying to get involved in it. There are a few big companies in Europe that are standing out in the AI space. You have Lovable, you have N8N, and so I think others are trying to grow and be there as well. And
Yeah.
so there are a lot of people trying to build in the software and in the tools. So yeah, no, it's going well. There is, of course, like the EU ruling on AI and everything, and so that
Yes.
that changes things as well. And so it's interesting to see how the Netherlands specifically, how there are communities that are trying to sort of push back to the government and sort of lobby about how they want to make changes and still have creativity within AI.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, it's tough in Europe with the tech climate and AI climate in general. I just saw like another
yeah,
article. They want to crack down on every private communication that's encrypted, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, I don't understand
yeah,
like this like massive fear against like just technology, and it's like everything gets regulated before it's even out. It's very tough sometimes. Very hard to be in a company because like, what if you get regulated tomorrow and all of a sudden like your whole market goes away, right? It's
yeah,
very interesting the route that they have chosen. They even had like some beef with OpenAI when ChatGPT 5 was coming out because they wanted
yeah,
to know what they're training on and all that stuff. And they're like, well, we don't tell you. And if you want to know, but we're not going to release it. So I
yeah,
think private companies won that battle, but
yeah.
it remains interesting. I mean, like, I wonder if we're going to get to a point where companies are just going to be like, you know what, like this is too much. Like I'm just going to not do it in Europe anymore. I mean, the market is huge, but I don't know. At some point, you're just going to be like, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. And like, it's quite
You
interesting.
Yeah, you already have that in London, in the UK, and there are, things are delayed in terms
Yeah,
of newer models coming out, IP or a product not being available in Europe compared to the US because of GDPR or various other things. And yeah, that changes things. So that kind of slows things down in
yeah.
Europe, definitely.
I don't. They need to get like out of that mode. I feel like they just need to be a
Yeah,
little more successful and like just be operating a little more entrepreneurship wise.
yeah,
Um, because yeah, I remember the whole Figma and like Adobe deal was kind of held up mostly by England actually. And they
mm,
were blocking it because it was a global deal, and so it would affect every market. So they have to get approval rating for the purchase and the M&A rating from everybody. And they pulled out, and like Adobe had to pay Figma $1 billion, and just
yeah,
because of that. And then now they just went public, and they was a gangbuster IPO, so it was awesome.
yeah,
Um, all right, but let's talk about what's in the docket for today because we have a full docket. Um,
yes,
we have structured it a little bit different. We're gonna like structure it like in a certain format going forward, which I'm super excited about. So we are going to cover like kind of general updates, industry news, kind of summarize what's going on, um, talk about it. You know, I'm sure you and I had always like a chance to kind of play with it, give some initial feelings, and then we have a couple of like just projects we can showcase, product highlights or demos. So this way we can kind of like have the same structure going forward. So I think that's hopefully going to help everybody out there as well to kind of just like follow along and yeah, just excited to kind of like get it a little bit more organized. So yes, really exciting. But let's talk about it. We had a couple of new models come out. We had a
yeah.
couple of like updates happening. You wanted to talk about Google Opal, which is a new tool. I think competing with NNN in that case, right?
Yeah, it is. It is competing with N8N. It's competing with Make and Zapier, and it's looking pretty clean. It's sort of the same sort of setup where you have different nodes here. You can see this as well, where it has different nodes of running tests and running through a process. And they already have templates out there of blog post writers, book recommendations, various things, fashion stylist, and you can play around with it. And it's pretty easy to set up. And of course, because it's Google, you can connect to Google Drive, your Gmail, everything very easily. And so it sets things up pretty nicely. So yeah, this is their move to see what's happening there. I think Google they may be a little later to various parts of the AI space, but they've also said they've never been first. Even in search, they were never first in Google Photos, Google Maps. And so this is their process. They throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks, and kind of go from there. So
that's
cool
always
thing.
like my concern with Google is like you just mentioned that, like you start building it out, you start using it, all of a sudden they're like, Google Opal didn't work out, we're not going to use it anymore, so like forget about it.
Yes.
But I think an important note is it's actually like a Google Labs product. So that's something that Google did in the early days of Google. They had a ton of like labs products. And so what that means is, people unfamiliar with this, these are like test products. Like they're like specifically just out there. They're experimental. They're like kind of like out there to kind of get a feel of how users think about it, how users adapt to it before it actually goes mainstream. So like, disclaimer, like this thing literally could go in a way at any given point. Like, and that's why it's a Google Labs like product. And so I think that's important. And I've heard I have heard an interview with them, and they specifically mentioned like they brought back Google Labs on purpose to basically iterate in the AI space faster and get feedback from the community, which is amazing.
Yeah. So we'll see sort of how that plays out.
That's awesome. I have not had a chance to play with it yet. Does it only support Google like models, or does it support any type of like models?
Right now, from what I could tell, it supports Google models and not necessarily others. It's still early days, though. That could definitely change pretty quickly. But yeah, they're really just trying out new things. I didn't see many integrations yet. As many as you see in N8N or Make, but yeah, who knows?
Probably like a really good thing if you have like a G Suite already set up. You have like Gmail and Google Drive and like Google Docs, and just like automate certain things, like go collect my ideas about a blog post in this Google Doc, then go take Gemini, go optimize it with keywords, and then just like generate the blog post basically, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, exactly. Or you have all of your, your corpus, all of your information in Google Drive. It can do a lot of things, of even having a chatbot, better understanding. So how do we do this workflow? What do we do with onboarding? Things like that.
Yes, that's exciting. Cool. Next up, Google's firing us all cylinders, but Google Genie 3. Tell us about that, Nick.
Okay, so this is just more of a fun tech thing. This Genie 3 is a new frontier for world models. So essentially, you add a prompt and it will create a whole world that you can actually go up and down and move forward and backwards in. And it's creating it in real time. And so as you can see, it's moving forward, and slowly but surely you can see more of the space. And you can kind of see sort of different worlds. You can even have it follow a certain animal or a certain character. And this is, it's more of a fun thing. I think it's going to be really interesting in the future, where people can create these themselves, and you can then potentially watch what somebody else created and sort of see other worlds. If you, it's a pretty interesting thing.
It's absolutely wild. When I saw the first announcement of it, obviously it's a total gimmick right now. but it shows you what's possible. You can basically generate like your Google world and like think about like Google Earth and like walking through it, or Google Maps, and like you can do that with a generated like thing, like AI world basically, that looks pretty real actually.
Yeah.
And you can use your keyboard like up and down arrows, and you can just like walk through it. I think where this is going to be huge actually is going to be movies. I think generating like small animated movies is going to be insane. I think like the costs of having an animated like movie or even like a short clip for promotions is going to go drastically down. But I also think for gaming, I think this is like a typical application of like how do we create games. And so I think that's kind of like where this is going. But this is just mind blowing to me of like how insane the quality is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to, even with games, you're going to be able to create your own worlds with your characters or your things, right? And so that is really interesting too. You can have your enemies that you fight or whatever in whatever world that you want it to be. It can be in space. It can be in your backyard, like really small or whatever. So it's super interesting to see where that goes. I think another interesting use case, you're right, with Google Earth, I think is going to be really fascinating to be able to just walk around in the world. And I think there are, potentially interesting use cases. Get a VR headset, getting this, and then just walking around the world.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Really exciting. I think this is gonna be fun. Definitely just more of a fun application right now. But again, another like Google Lab release. This is from DeepMind in particular, which is like their ML research group. Basically, they acquired DeepMind a couple of years ago. And you pointed it out. They were slow to the game. They were like really behind. And what's impressive about Google is they're such an obvious winner to me, where I was like, how are you guys like behind on the ball here? And what's really cool is actually, I don't know if you've heard that, but some of the original founders, like Sergey, they're back in the office. And so they came back to Google. They're sitting on the floor with the engineers, and they're just like in the office, and they're working, and they're like excited about this. But they're also fixing a couple of things, and they're now kind of coming back to the company, and they're like, why is there so much bureaucracy going on over here? Like, well, how is this so complicated? Like, how is this like, how do we not just like move forward? And so I think this kind of like founder first mentality helped Google to kind of unblock themselves and get moving, because they really went from like the first models being absolute like bad and just not usable to becoming like a forefront leader now in the space. And it's going to be really exciting to see what's going to come out of them in the next couple of months and years.
Yep. No, very true. I think what, as a founder, you need to move fast and break things. And
Yes.
they did that. They did a good job at that, building Google and growing Google. And then now it is a behemoth of a company.
Yes.
And so, turning a ship that's that large is super tough.
Yes.
And so you need to create tiger teams. You need to create teams within that can have access to key stakeholders and get that approval and move forward. And that's what they're doing.
Yep, that's the main reason Google Labs is back. They can move forward and break things, and they have an excuse. They're like, there's a big disclaimer that says it's experimental.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh gosh. All right. Also, another big news this week was ChatGPT OpenAI. Super hyped event. I mean, people were just like mind-boggling. They're like, GPT-5 is going to be this like next big model. It's going to be so interesting. And turns out, for the first time, it's like, man, it's like, okay, like it's there, it's interesting, but it's not on the forefront. For the first time, like it is a little bit better, but like it's not crazy better. It's not like marginally better. It's like pretty much the same, in my opinion, at least. I think the stats kind of back it up. If you look at like the stats that they have published, the demos were just more like use cases versus like benchmarks, what they normally do, which was kind of like the first indicator of like this being like maybe not a huge advancement. But I do think that where OpenAI is phenomenal at is user experience and product. And so when I say that, it's people have no idea what 4.0 means, O3 deep search, like 4 mini, like who can keep up with all these numbers? Like you just like look at it and you're like, this is like, I don't know what this means, right? And so the big news or like the advantage of GPT-5 is basically they built in a logic component that now auto switches and it auto navigates between the models. So if you're asking a tough question of like, hey, go help me analyze the stock, it will like use a thinking model that like takes longer and does more research. But if you just have a quick question of like, hey, what's 2 plus 2, it will just use like the easiest model it has, really quick answer. And so instead of like having to rely on the user to switch back and forth, I think this will actually help a ton of users just to like use the product better, get better experiences, and just like without having to know all this technical finesse behind it. I've played with it. It feels like the same as before. Like it feels like typical like 4.0 was like the model before, and like O3 a mix of both. I feel like it does start thinking a lot too much. Like sometimes I'm like, you're too slow. Like you keep thinking too much. But what do you think about? Have you played with it at all? Have you played with it like quite a bit? And what's kind of like your take on the whole like actual end user experience?
Yeah, I think it is a little bit of a step forward. I think there was a big hype around it, and I agree. I think that it's only marginally better. For me, using that one versus others, we've really seen, the first few times with ChatGPT, with Claude, with all of these, the incredible increase of from one model to the next of just capabilities and what it can handle. And now we're sort of seeing that taper off. That's going to happen because it's now going to be so much more nuanced, like what it needs to get better at and what it needs to change. And and then Claude also came out with Anthropic came out with a new version as well. That is
was it Opus 4.1 or what was it?
Yeah, it's hold on, let me. Yeah,
I think it was also just like marginally better and like not really like I don't know why they released that one. That was very interesting to me, but I was like, okay, cool, like that's out there. Okay, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Sonnet 4 does now support 1 million tokens of context. So the context windows are getting bigger as well, which is also really interesting to see. But of course, for a price. That's the direction too. But yeah, in terms of using it for me, it's much less of it giving me better answers. A lot of that is also the prompts that I'm giving it, and they're all good enough for me for now with the prompts that I'm giving it. So
that's true.
That's sort of where I'm at.
I think what's interesting to call out is I forgot to mention that is pricing, and the pricing actually came down with GPT-5, which is interesting. Like on the developer side of things, like the developer facing side, if you build applications on top of it, you actually get exposed to 3 different versions of GPT-5. And some of the versions are really cheap. Like the GPT-5 Nano, for example, is like really, really cheap. But which basically allows you to have a better performing model at a lower price than before. So I've been using it for some of our applications actually at Get Vibey. And I've moved over to GPT-5 Nano for like transcribing audio, for example, and it actually has like half the cost than a comparable model before. And so that's kind of like what's interesting, and that's actually a big advantage that might be maybe more behind the scenes. That again, like the costs of these things keep coming down, which is like really exciting because it just enables us to build like so many more applications. But that was definitely like one of the things that I observed as well that was an advantage, at least for developers, because you kind of get some cost savings built in, which is always a nice thing. And especially at some use cases, you don't always need like the best frontier model to solve your problems. You just sometimes need the right model for the right use case, because things do get pretty expensive if you don't fine tune it correctly. So having some cost savings on like very basic tasks, analyzing, categorizing, classifying text, etc., and like doing that more at scale now is always nice, because if the bill goes down by 50%, that's nice cost savings right there. I'll take this anytime.
Yeah, totally. What I think is going to be a next wave, which is going to be interesting, is also just is local LLMs, where you're going to be able to download these LLMs yourself, have them running on your server, and that way it's safer because it's not sort of going to another company. You can actually prompt and request things a lot without it being charged anymore. And so that's sort of the next step, where they want to be able to make that, small enough to be able to put on your own computer or even a phone in the future and run applications that way as well.
I think that's the future. I think those models will eventually run locally, more and more, at least for like the basic stuff. Most of the cars, self-driving cars, do that. Like Teslas, they don't talk to like an outside server. Like they just have like a local AI computer built in, basically. But you're right. OpenAI actually did release some open source models, and I think where we're going to see a lot of progress there is actually in the legal and medical field, because they have like such high irregularities and such problems with like data sharing agreements that like now they can actually use those models to run locally, to run more on a proprietary version. They don't have to share their data out. So it allows like these highly regulated industries to actually now start testing and like experimenting with these types of applications much faster without having to go through all the regulation and red tape, basically, which is exciting.
Yeah, GPT OSS, it's the local LLM. I thought that was personally more interesting than GPT 5. So
interesting.
Hey,
yeah. It's interesting, right? Because it's definitely pretty good if you compare it. But yeah, I mean, there's also other comparable open source models like Kimi K2. I know it's out of China, but if you host it in the US, it doesn't matter where it's from. It's just an AI model, so it doesn't matter where it's coming from. Which I think is the big differentiator. If you run it like within their servers, it's definitely restricted on content. But you guys download it, you can run it on your own. Grok, like GROQ, the company, actually hosts all of these like open source models, and it's a US based company. It's running within the US, so you have to like worry about anything. But I think there is going to be a lot of competition, so we'll see how that plays out for like companies like OpenAI also having open source models. But yeah, it remains interesting. So definitely a thing to watch out for, especially if you're in those industries that are like highly regulated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was the play for Meta. They came out with a local LLM really early, and they've wanted to sort of expand in that space and get as much sort of market share in that regard. And they know that doing that for free is the best way to get people onto your platform. So they're sort of using the play of Android and software to try to do that here. We'll see if that works out.
Except when it's so bad, nobody wants to use it. So like, that's the problem. It's like you only want to be on the top one. So they just spend hundreds of millions of dollars to get top AI researchers into that company. But I think what's interesting is their revenue growth was actually like pretty high in terms of quarter over quarter. I think most of it is because of AI, because they can make their ad network more performant, so businesses can run ads that perform better without having a ton of knowledge. They're auto-optimized by Facebook or by Meta across the platforms, which allows services or like businesses to just make more money off their ads, which is huge. So businesses just spend more. And you can actually see that because their ad revenue went up quite a bit quarter over quarter. And I think you're actually going to see some of like the first massive like return on investments is actually like companies like Meta using it for their advantage and making their products better that actually have an impact on the customers or businesses using it, which is really exciting. So I think when you doing advertisements right now, you should have seen a pretty significant boost in like performance optimizations over the last 6 to 9 months. So I would take a look if you run Facebook ads somewhere, that you should make sure they're AI optimized and that you take advantage of like the optimizations that Meta has been doing. And I think you should see a lift in the performance of these ads over the last 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, nice.
But we have, oh my God, we're so far in. We have so much on the agenda today.
We have so much more to cover.
Oh my God. Okay, let's go.
All right.
We have 2 more news, and then we're going to jump into some projects. But tell us, you had ShowRunner on the list. What is ShowRunner?
This is a much smaller project and pretty random. ShowRunner right now is just a website and a Discord group. And what they do is they have a lot of characters that sort of look like and feel like a Family Guy sort of thing. And you can actually give it a prompt and it will create a video. It can be as short as 1 minute, 2 minutes, but it can be as long as 10 minutes. And it will create a whole story about about different characters and what have you. And so this is also backed by Bezos, I believe, and they will be launching later this year, where people can create their own shows and everyone else can watch it. And I'm assuming there'll also be sort of upvoting and all of that sort of thing. And it's pretty crazy to see where that's going. I watched it. I went to Discord and created a video, and it was a video of Trump and Elon Musk talking about AI, and they were in the White House, and then you could change it. I could add a prompt and change it to have them be on a spaceship, and it could do that too. So it's really interesting to see where creativity can actually come in for people that have never created shows, and that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think how people can use this actually, what's sometimes maybe overlooked, this is so unique. This will be such a perfect like video or reel or TikTok that will be successful because it's so unique and it's so lowly adopted yet that like even if you just like spin a story and have like an animated character, people are going to be like, what is this? And like, how did you generate this? And so I think if you think about like trying to stand out and like in terms of like content marketing or just like some advertisements, like these tools all of a sudden like if they're very early on, they actually become like a huge advantage because nobody else is using them. So you're going to get a lot of eyes on them because people are going to be like, oh, how did you create this? And you can kind of like create a couple of like cool stories. And again, this goes back to like, you just got to like mix in a couple of different functionalities here, right? So you gotta like go to Grok, like go create like a spicy script that's like kind of like controversy, right? Then take that script and like go generate your little ad. I mean, I want to play with it now. This is exciting. I'm gonna check this out after the show.
Yeah, it's as you said, not a lot of people are using this yet. Could be a really interesting marketing play. 100%.
Cool. One last one on the general news. Perplexity.
Yeah, Perplexity. We'll be chatting about this in a little bit. Perplexity Comet. But yes. Here, Perplexity I think it was yesterday, proposed buying Chrome from Google for $34.5 billion. And what's interesting about this is that Google wasn't offering Chrome to be for sale. So they just threw this out, and it's showing that there's definitely a land grab in this AI space, and that browsers are going to be, at least Perplexity thinks, browsers are going to be a really important part of that. And you know, how we connect to the internet, how we connect to information, and that's their play. So that's where they want to go. So who knows? We'll see if Sundar wants to sell, but either way, it's going to be an interesting scenario. Yeah.
Well, I think why there's an open door is there is currently still like an antitrust negotiation lawsuit against Google to break Google up, basically. And so one of the considerations is to break out Chrome, for example, from Google and make it its own standalone company. And so they might be like, not worth it, don't want to do it, and they might just sell it. And so there might be a play here. Not sure if selling to the competitor is the best play, but we'll see.
I know.
If it's enough money, people might be like, you know, whatever, I'll take it.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty brave of him to throw that out there. So, and he was a former intern at Google, the founder. And so, yeah, this is an interesting thing. We'll see how it plays out.
I love it. Hey, controversy news always makes it up there. So that's like some great advertisement for them.
Yeah, totally. Exactly.
Perfect. All right, cool. You have the first one on the agenda here to talk about a product highlight. Shows are yours.
Yes. So what I had noticed with my research and with my work that I've been doing in AI in general is that ChatGPT, all of this AI can be used in various different ways. One is brainstorming, and so getting a lot of new ideas. And so that's very much this divergent thinking or divergent prompting, if you will. So with divergent prompting, the questions that can come up for that would be something like, list as many ways possible to market our new product, or give me 20 examples of different ways that I could handle this specific scenario.
Yeah.
Then what has been sort of the next step, and everyone knows that divergent side, divergent prompting. The next step is really going towards convergent prompting. So again, sort of narrowing it down and asking questions like, choose the top 3 features to implement this quarter, after going broad and then going more specific to, based on the ICP, the specific customer persona, the ideal customer persona we have, what's the most effective channel for us to go to? And that way, it can actually, you can create actionable results and scenarios with AI in general to move forward. And so with that also, in ChatGPT, and I'm a big Perplexity user, I have projects or spaces, if you will, that you can sort of hone in on this divergent and convergent thinking. And it's super helpful for me to have these spaces. I have a space for financial planning. I have a space or a project for various parts of my life. And it helps me for my business to know that there's sort of an agent that is focused on that can help me with the issues that come up on a daily basis. So wanted to share that. Thought that was an interesting new thing that's coming up with divergent and convergent prompting.
Yeah, I love that. So if I would be completely new to this, or if I'm like basic user, right? Would love to break it down and kind of like confirm what I'm saying is correct. What you're saying is, I'm a business owner. I operate, let's say, a flower shop, right? I have a flower shop locally here. I have a local business maybe, but also sell online. I deliver. Instead of just asking, how can I optimize my business? And there's like obviously 15 million ways to do that, right? Zero context at that point. What you're saying is, okay, step 1, go create a specific chat or a project basically within ChatGPT. Describe the business. Purposely tell it to ask you questions about like, how do you think about that? How do you think about advertisement? Where do you make your money? Do you have a shop? Do you not have a shop? How much do you sell online versus in person? How much do you break down into deliveries? Do you charge for deliveries? And so what kind of products do you have? How many competitors are around you? So basically, by learning all of that, you keep it in that project, and then you say, hey, go use this project, and then now help me actually deliver on how can I improve my online advertisement, or how can I expand my online channel, for example? How can I stand out on my delivery service? And the reason I believe why you're saying this is different is because at this point, you actually have the knowledge. You kind of trained it, you kind of gave it like all the back and forth. You actually had to probably think about some questions you haven't thought about before and had to answer it. And maybe through there, it can now better understand in what situation you are, versus like starting a new chat every single time and starting from scratch basically, and like just working against the whole world basically. Is that kind of like correct describedly for what you're mentioning?
Yeah, exactly. And so, an area before I started Workflow Studio, I never had really done marketing. And so for me, starting a business, all of a sudden, I need to wear a lot of different hats. And this way, by creating this project, by creating a specific project about marketing for Workflow Studio, I can give it all the context I need and it needs to give me a much clearer answer. And this is also very much related to context engineering, which is sort of the new phrase compared to vibe coding, where when you hire, if I would hire a marketer, I'm not just saying, oh, I need a marketer. I need to give much more specifics. I need to say how many years they've had experience, what experience they have, what skill set they have, what tools they know how to use. You need to give much more information to get good answers and get more pointed answers from this. This I've also learned a lot from Rachel Woods, who has AI Exchange, who has another sort of training course community, and she's working very much in this AI operations space. And it's a really fascinating world where you are seeing that you can create these agents, these projects, and have them especially find blind spots in your marketing plan. Give you sort of 5 questions that you need to answer to really hone in on your ICP, to know who you're trying to reach out to on LinkedIn or whatever. And so that's really, it's been really helpful for me to not only brainstorm as I did in the beginning, like what should be the name of my business, but now to go much more specific and be like, okay, let's really ask me 10 questions about marketing for my business. And then I will answer those. And then that will be in your data and in your knowledge for forever.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think creating those I think how you have to treat these projects actually is like almost like employees. Like if you don't tell them the data, like they can't help you. And that's the same thing with these AI applications. Yeah. If you, let's say, connect your QuickBooks to your AI agent, you just make it a financial expert, you tell it like, here's your job description, like literally upload a job description, tell it what problem it needs to solve. And then you give it like your bank statements. It can tell you when there's weird charges, or there's charges dropping off, or there's revenue not coming in. It can actually signify these things, and it can actually tell you how to do things differently, basically. And obviously, sometimes it is wrong, yes. But I think the biggest point is you got to treat it like an actual employee with the context and with the information, and then you actually benefit from all of the knowledge that comes out of it. And I think we're going to see a lot of that in next coming of like months, where people is going to be like, it's like, okay, I got to give it like the knowledge, and it's going to give it like the context. And then once you can build those pipelines automatically, that's going to be the huge unlock, because then it already has the context of like, oh, what ads have I been driving on Facebook? What have I been doing this? And you can see that more and more, I think, on the applications. They're trying to connect to a knowledge base. They're trying to connect to G Drive. They're trying to connect to Notion or whatever it is through like all these remote servers. So like actually, you don't have to do much other than give it access, and like the connection's already built out. And then this way it can actually pull in the knowledge automatically, which is really neat on how we've gotten here, which is so different. Before we had to build a bunch of like developers and had to build API integrations and all that stuff. And I think all that stuff is going away with that MCP server concept, what they call it. And you can just kind of connect it and it will come out of the box. And so I think huge fan of that. Thank you for bringing it up and going over that. I think that's a really exciting thing that we should probably cover more. Maybe even like provide some example links for like the Get Vibey community, and even whether start with accounting, start with bookkeeping, start with like marketing, and just like kind of like give it examples of like, hey, here's how I've discovered this. Here's how I've trained it, and some of these things are just templates, and they're not like crazy hard to set up. It's just more about like the maintenance and the fine tuning and knowing what questions to ask, basically.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, and I can definitely, as we have more of these podcasts, I can share more of what we're doing at Workflow Studio in these different areas, and share the spreadsheets that ChatGPT has created for me with the ICP information and everything else. So we can definitely look through that as well.
That's amazing. That sounds super promising and really exciting. So thank you for offering that.
Yeah, of course.
All right, cool. We just talked about Perplexity. They wanted to buy Chrome. Guess what? They already came out with their own Chrome, basically, because Chromium, the behind is open source. So they released a browser called Comet. Comet. And basically what Comet is it looks pretty much just like Google Chrome, But for the first time, Perplexity is the default search engine, not Google. So that's huge. Second point is they have an AI assistant built in. And so we talked about it in the last show. And guess what? We got an invite. We're finally in it. We're in the beta right now. we're part of the chosen ones. But we wanted to show some demos. So let me just quickly pull this up 1 second, because we actually do have some demos prepared.
As you're
Yes.
pulling that up, I am super excited about Comet, and thank you for the invite to be able to have access to this, because it's essentially a ChatGPT that's built into your browser. It can review the tabs that you have open. One thing that I do want to say as a disclaimer, I have not connected. I have switched over to Comet, first off. I've switched over for most of my tabs, most of my information. However, anything financial, my bank accounts, my credit card, any of that, I have not connected to Perplexity, to Comet, and I won't be doing that until we have a little more time, a few more months of testing to make sure that it's as accurate as it can be. There are some scenarios where you may ask it to do something, and then all of a sudden it actually sends an email to somebody without necessarily knowing. So keep that in mind as we're going through this, but there are a lot of really cool use cases as well.
Yes. So you can see my screen, I believe. Right now, I actually do not use Comet as my default browser. So fun fact there. I'll go back into that a little bit. But this is kind of like your start screen. This looks pretty much familiar. You have like your Perplexity kind of like as like the default empty tab. You can navigate to Google Calendar, whatever it's on here, to become a couple of widgets. But what you can do is there's now assistants in here. And there's a couple of shortcuts that you can do. Let's just say, teach me Comet. And then so it basically now use the assistant to pull up on how to use it. And this looks pretty much just like a Perplexity search. But you can see a new tab here called Steps. And so what happens is I prepared something yesterday. I basically ask it like, hey, go find me the best flight options from LAX or Burbank to Austin on like 8:25 and back to LA on 9:1. And so normally this doesn't work really well, but what it does in this case, it actually uses your browser in the background to go do all these searches and do the research. And what comes out of it is basically like, hey, your best overall from LAX is price nonstop, reasonable times, airline Southwest, here's your price, outbound times, return, here's the fare. And you can actually go ahead and then go book it, and then it will actually open up the tab to then go from there and book the flight. If we go one step behind the scenes, you can kind of see what happens. It goes searches like American Airlines, United, it like goes to like Spirit and all these airlines. It then does like more Google searches. It does a couple of tasks in reading content. And then what basically comes out of this is what you see right here. And then on another note, you can ask questions like, when is my next meeting? Prepare me for my next meeting. Go read this email. And what you have to do there is just connect your Google account and it will work just fine. Or if you are on a news website, let's say, where are we going to go? Let's go to divergent.com, for example. And chatbots aren't telling there's user secrets. So, okay, that's a fun report. But you can enable the assistant here, and you can basically say like, give me a, oh my God, I can't type anymore. Give me a TLDR of this article. And so basically it will now access what you see on your screen, and it will give you the TLDR. And so there we go. There's a 3 bullet point summary of what this article is about, basically. And you can do this with any screen you see. You can kind of like pull up the assistant, and it can use the tabs, and it can then actually like do something for you, whatever it might be. You can set up automations around like go write a tweet or go make this an ad, and then if you hook up all the tools, it will start doing that. And it can actually use the content on your screen. And I think this goes back to the bet why they think this is so big. you are already logged into everything in your browser. And that is the huge advantage if everything happens in your browser. You don't have to connect a bunch of applications and like login credentials and share those login credentials with these providers. They can just use your browser. And if you're logged in and authenticated, boom, done. And I think that's why the browser is such a big bet and why they think the browser will be the future of this. I personally believe this is probably the future. Like I think browsers are huge, especially because it's like operating independent. You can do it on your phone and you don't need apps everywhere. So I truly believe that the browser is a pretty good bet. I just don't know how defensible it is, given that everybody has a browser like Safari on iPhone, Google on Android. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can differentiate themselves and build like a defensible product. But yes, what do you think about Nick? What have you used Comet mostly for?
Yeah, so I am very excited about it. I think you're right. I think for this transition period, browsers are going to be really important. It's going to be hard to keep that market share because of the other ones that are out there as well. And then in the future, it's going to be much more sort of agent-driven prompting and talking. But for now, in this transition, like we use browsers all the time, and so it needs to use that as we transition. And so I've used it for a few things. One thing is so I'm here in Amsterdam, and I've been here, and I will be here for the next few months. And I use SoundCloud for my music. I love finding new DJs. I love looking them up, finding when they have shows. And so I have created a few shortcuts, which you can then do by just doing this /, and you can either type in upcoming DJs or liked DJ shows. I created these myself. So this one will, what they'll do is it will go into my SoundCloud. It will review my liked DJs, any liked DJs that I've liked in the last few weeks. It will see if they have any scheduled shows in Amsterdam in the near future, and it will add it to my calendar, to my Google Calendar, with the link to where to buy the ticket. So, and all of these things, it's a little buggy. It takes a long time, so it's not there yet fully. But it's definitely worked where I've added things to my calendar and have actually booked tickets to go to one of those shows. And then another one.
So you're basically busy for the next 4 weeks because you have found so many shows that you just on the go.
No more podcasts. Yeah, no time. I'll be at shows every night. I'll be extremely tired. And yeah, so that's part of it as well. It also creates a playlist for me for upcoming DJs. So really cool sort of features there. And then I have a few other examples that are a bit more business related. One is I've actually asked it to look, since I have LinkedIn open, I have a friend named Robert, and I asked, okay, look at Robert's connections. And this is my ICP. I'm looking for a developer. I'm looking for they need to be freelance. They need to be working for maybe have like 10 or less employees, and get me 10 connections that then I could reach out to Bob about and say, hey, can you connect me to these people? And it provided 10 matches. It took, it took probably a good 5 minutes or so, 4 minutes to get that. But it did pull these people. I have the link so I can go to them and see if they're the right people. It gives me information of why they think that's the right person. If you use fractional specialists, we can augment backlog and like actually phrases that I can say in a message to them. So really interesting stuff there as well. And then, so that's another one.
I love that. And I think you can actually connect it with like, just go write me the message, and like, it will just like pre-write it because it's super personalized. And that's where these things are going to become powerful. Yes, they're pretty slow right now. I agree. It just takes a couple minutes, but like at the end of the day, just run it in your browser in the background. You don't have
Yeah.
to sit there and wait. You just do it in the background. And like you would never do this if you would have to do it yourself manually. So like I think that's like the important piece is like you don't have to hire somebody. You can kind of like just do it yourself. You don't have to go through like an Upwork and find like a cheap like freelancer somewhere offshore that like now does this for you. This will kind of replace this whole workflow and you're fully in charge of it
Yeah.
and you just run it in the background. I think that's where these things become like super powerful. It's like doing exactly that, like the repetitive tasks and just like looking at stuff and comparing it. And it's so much quicker to do that with like the context versus just like build me an Excel sheet, then go build me a VLOOKUP, and then like do all these things, right? It's like it's tedious and it's annoying. And so that's that I think that whole workflow will go away and will become so much easier.
Yeah. And you can do it on multiple tabs. You can have different agents running, essentially. You can have different assistants running at the same time. So while it was doing that, I had it also look through my Perplexity space. So here you can see my Perplexity space, Workflow Studio. It's all about my business, everything, any questions I have, how I want to set it up, yada, yada. I've added files. And I've asked it to go through my Workflow Studio space, and I have a pitch that I need to pitch to an investor, and I need a pitch deck. And I asked it to create the pitch deck in Google Slides. Now it didn't do that. It wasn't able to do that. However,
I'm blown away.
I know. No slides. I looked at the slides; they were completely empty, so there was nothing there. But what it did, then I asked, okay, create an outline and put that in a Google Drive. So I did that, and it looks fine. It has good information in there, and then it has all the different slides that would be there with case studies and various other things. Some of it's not right, some of it is, but this is sort of one example of the future. This is going to be changing really quickly. And I would bet in 3 months, if I ask the same question, it could create the slides. So who knows? We'll see. We'll try it again.
100%. I think that's where sometimes we get hung up. Some of these tools, I think that's what I've learned. They look amazing on the surface, and then you actually dig deep into like actual use cases and like actual things that can help you. And sometimes you get there, more often than not, you realize, yeah, it's almost there. But I think it's important just to play with it, get exposure early, learn the things that work, that don't work, and like get your setup, get your foundation done now. Because as you said, every week, month, there's like new advancements, and like you don't have to rebuild. You just use the same foundation you already have. Like your projects, your spaces are not going away. That content is there. It's set up. So the moment the tool gets unlocked, it's basically there. And so what's cool is what I like about Perplexity actually is the fact that they do have the web search component, but they do also have the component of switching models. So you can actually switch between OpenAI, you can switch between Grok, you can go use Anthropic. And so that is really the cool part on where this is different. Yes, and you're showing on your screen, you can see all the different models for reasoning and just like overall for searches. And one thing I do have to say where Perplexity is absolutely the best is financial data. Like if you want to look at financial data and you want to compare stuff and you want to pull in financial data, like, oh my God, they're so good at financial modeling, pulling in stocks, pulling in like bets, like all that kind of stuff. Like they are having data. They have done a phenomenal job at like their financial reporting and how they analyze the information.
Yeah, and they're really expanding in this browser. They're expanding with news. So they have news on finance, they have news on tech and science, they have art and culture. And these are articles that are pretty short, a few paragraphs, and those are often created by Perplexity. And it's also pulled by many sources. So it's a very interesting model, and it's pretty cool to see. But yes, finance, you can then click on certain markets, you can see various graphs. There's a lot of information here, and you can then also ask a lot of specific questions, and it will show that, it will create watch lists. It's pretty cool.
Definitely fun. It's definitely like what Google did, but more interactive. So
Yeah.
this is definitely the next generation of what's going to come.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Cool.
I was going to do a demo about a marketing thing that I previewed. I'm going to be honest, didn't work out. I thought it was going to work out. It didn't work out.
Hmm.
I was basically trying to use Cloud Code with like Canva and basically like create like um, Canva stuff like online. So like these like design apps that you see. I thought I saw a hype and I fell for it. I tried it out and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I don't know what you're going to tell me. It doesn't work. If you're trying to describe art, it's not there yet. It's not working. But but I do have something else, and I do want to kind of point something out at something that we've been releasing at Get Vibey is our little buddy. We just made an announcement, so little plug here. We basically recently announced that we now have our little bot experience that can basically handle pretty much any inbound phone call. It can handle chat, and it can basically answer questions. I think the biggest part is it just picks up the phone, just answers the customers. It knows about your business. It can take your information and forward it. It can even forward calls. It detects when it's a spam call, somebody trying to sell you something. We made an announcement about this. If you're interested in how this works, we're currently rolling it out to members, but it's on our website. So you just click on this button and you just send a message. And so you say, hey, how are we doing? And all of a sudden, it's there 24/7, and it's pretty accurate from what I've been seeing so far. So would love to get your opinion. And the same thing works with voice. So I could actually just call it, and we connect with phone numbers. That all works. And so I'm really excited and pumped about this feature. If you want to learn more about that, that's on getvibey.com. We're currently accepting members into our beta phase, and then obviously GAing just like in a couple of weeks. We also want to work on outbound calls to basically call your leads and nurture them and kind of like qualify them. I think that's kind of like the next step there. But yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm most excited about. I'm gonna like replace the marketing demo with like our little plug from Get Vibey. But I don't know. Have you had a chance to play with it, Nick, yet? What do you think about these kind of chatbots in general?
Oh, chatbots in general, I think are great. I think they, of course, it's limited to the FAQs, to the information you give it, and but that's okay. And
Yes.
that's we just need to know that it can't, make an omelet yet, and
Yes.
it's not going to do that. But it's a very good way to, when people want to get some answers, more answers than what's on the website, but don't really want to talk to somebody, it's a perfect little middle ground, I think.
What we've done actually is the biggest problem that I feel like you have is you have to set it up. You have to go through the setup. You have to provide the knowledge, configure the model, do all this stuff. Not with us. Like it comes out of the box. Like we already built your website, we already built your landing page, we already have all the content. So what's cool is actually members can onboard to this really quickly, and it will have the basic knowledge, as you said. We will only have the knowledge that we obviously have available, but there's going to be ways to easily just provide more content in any form. That is the amazing part. Any form. You can be a voice doc, like you can record yourself. You can give us a PDF, you give us text, emails, whatever it is. We can upload it, and then it knows stuff. But like I think the important part is somebody gets a hold of you right away. Like you call and like somebody picks up, and that is the most important thing. Because if you go around trying to get just a contact or more information or quote, I can't tell you how many times I call places and they're just like nobody picks up, and I'm like, okay, I'm over. I'm on to the next place. So like I'm already like crossing them off my list basically. And most people don't call you back because they don't check their missed calls basically. If you get an actual text message with like a summary of like, hey, this person was interested in X, you're gonna call back. So I think that's where this is gonna be really powerful. And the fun fact is like I get off at 6 and the business is already closed. Cool. Now I can still call. I can still get my information basically. Just because, I rather just call and instead of like having to browse on the website's up to date. And so like get like easy pricing information, how the process works, all that kind of stuff basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool. And it's so nice that for businesses, it's just like a set it and forget it sort of thing. You can like really
Yes.
plug and play and get it pretty quickly, which which is really nice because then you get to try it out. You get to start implementing AI and using it and see how it goes for you in your business.
Awesome. All right, cool. That's another episode. We're wrapping. We're slightly over time. Had some technical difficulties in the beginning, but we overcome all of that. I think that was a great episode, Nick. Thank you for joining me.
Of course.
And to everybody else, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Bye everyone.